Arizona football has had two straight NFL drafts where you've got guys as first-round picks. Can this continue? And what would this mean for Brent Brennan?
You are Locked On Wildcats, your daily podcast on the Arizona Wildcats. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Thanks for giving it Locked On Wildcats and making this your first listen of the day. Locked On, your team every day. Today's episode is brought to you today by Monarch Money. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use code LOCKEDONCollege at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. All right. We've got a lot to get to this show. We are going to talk Arizona football. Obviously, we are going to talk recruiting. We are going to talk about what another first-round pick would mean for the U of A. We'll probably get into a little bit of basketball as well. A smorgasbord of opportunities to get to here. But let's talk a little bit about it first, and let's talk a little bit about where Arizona football is when it comes to the NFL. Now, one thing I got to give Jed Fish is that with Jed, he did a very, very good job of getting guys that were going to play in the NFL. And he developed guys into NFL players. I got to give him a lot of credit there. He is like I said, when you look at what he did, there's guys that, some of the guys weren't his recruits, but I get that I get it. But at the same time, you also look at him though, and like a Jordan Morgan, he's the one that developed Jordan Morgan. He gets credit for Jordan Morgan. But then there's a lot of other guys too that, like I said, he developed. Now, a guy like a T-Mac, that guy was going to be a pro either way. So I don't know that I really sit here and, give him a ton of credit for that. But, he did a good job. Jonas Avenea, same thing. Guys like that. So there's a lot to go with this. Now, the first one that I want to talk about though is a year ago, Jordan Morgan. Jordan Morgan has been a stud for the Green Bay Packers. Not only has he been a stud, he is. I don't think it would surprise really anybody if he's a Pro Bowler at this point. He's a really, really good football player. He hasn't allowed one pressure all throughout camp, and they've been incredibly good. They've been incredibly happy with how he has played out. And I think that's something that you look at and you're kind of like, okay, I get it. I see how this one's going to work. The one thing though about him though is that he works hard. He's big. He's physical, and he's going to be a good. I think he's going to be a good representation for the University of Arizona and what kind of what you're looking for. Again, really, really good player, and a good ambassador for the U of A. Then you got T-Mac, Teteroa McMillan. Teteroa McMillan's one of the handful of best players to ever play at the U of A. And when I say, and I mean that, he is really, really good. He is like I said, you could watch him for 5 seconds and be like, oh, all right. It's a little bit different than other people that I've seen there. That's where, and that's kind of where I come into that. He's going to be a guy that is going to be a household name. He's going to be on NFL radars. He's going to do all of that stuff. He is, and like I said, when you watch him, you just kind of know that he's a little bit different. He's the kind of guy that shows up to Alabama, that shows up to Ohio State, that generally doesn't show up to Arizona. So, and again, he's another one that is going to look really, really good in the grand scheme of things for Arizona football when it comes to recruiting, when it comes to all of that stuff. He is like I said, he's a beast. And he is, like I said, you watch him. There's a little bit of sometimes I think, he gets a little bit jammed up in the red zone, but as far as being a jump ball threat, he's probably the best jump ball threat that I've ever. He's pretty much as good as anybody that I've ever seen in college. I mean, he is that guy. He is that guy. Not only is he that guy, he is, like I said, he's next level type stuff. And that's kind of what's exciting to watch about all of him. He's going to be a great, great ambassador for Arizona football in the NFL. And then we're not even stopping there as well. I mean, you look at it as well. You look at somebody like a Tyler Loop. It's exciting to watch because Arizona had a long time where you didn't have any of these guys. And that's what's exciting about it. You watch them and you're like, okay, T-Mac, Jonas Avenea, Tyler Loop, Ja'Cory Krosky-Merritt, and yes, we count him. And that's, like I said, that's good stuff. Now, let's talk a little bit about Big Jonah for a second. Another guy that I think is going to that I think is going to fit very, very well into the grand scheme of U of A players and what they're, what they're able to do at that next level. Watching him, you also know as well that he is going to be like I said, he's another guy that's just a monster. He is he's somebody that you watch and you're just kind of like, okay, cool. He's different, and he's going to be a plug and play guy for the Miami Dolphins for a long time. He is, like I said, he's a little bit different. He's entirely different. And like I said, he's somebody that's going to be a good, like I said, good ambassador for the U of A. Now, the next one is Tyler Loop. Tyler Loop went in there, and Tyler Loop is, like I said, he's in a pretty good spot right here with the Ravens. Basically, the Ravens said, we're going to get rid of the best kicker in NFL history, and we're going to bring in Tyler Loop, another guy. So you just look at it, and then we're talking about Ja'Cory Crosby-Merritt as well. This is a guy that is going to absolutely win. This guy, it's going to be the starting running back for the Washington Redskins, and he is going to annihilate it. And so, like I said, there's that. Now, let's talk a little bit then about where we are at then with let's talk a little bit about where we are when it comes to somebody like who could continue that, because kids at the end of the day, they like NFL draft picks. They like seeing guys that are NFL draft picks. They like seeing guys that are, you put them out there and you're like, okay, that could be my future. That could be what I'm going for. Those are the kind of guys like that. And that's I think that's a pretty cool thing about that, what Arizona is able to do, because for the longest time, you were not able to do any of that. Like I said, that's for the longest time. You're not able to do any of that. So now you got him in there. I liked Rich Rod a lot, but the problem with Rich Rod was he didn't put any guys in the NFL. And it's an easy recruiting tool because everybody wants to play in the NFL. So who could be that next one? You're hoping, and the guy that looks good on paper is Genesis Smith. Genesis Smith is like I said, he's a guy that, like I said, when you watch him, you're like, all right, he looks different. He looks the way that an NFL back is, or an NFL safety is supposed to look. He's 6'3", 215, something like that. And again, he moves really, really well. He can track the ball. He can do a lot of different things. Again, watching him, you're just kind of like, okay, he's a little bit different. And Jed tried to get him up to smelly, rainy Seattle, and he said, no, I will not do any of this at all. I will not do any of this. He's a guy, though, that, like I said, you watch him, and it's like, okay, cool. This is a little bit different. And that's kind of, like I said, that's just, that's just kind of the way it is. So there's that. Now, but what I will say is this, is that he's going to have to show ball skills this year. And it's not that he hasn't, but you don't want it to be the Tacario Davis situation, though, as well, where you're like, okay, this guy just isn't getting any better. And he just keeps dropping passes. That's not at all what it is with Genesis Smith. Again, Genesis Smith has good ball skills for sure, but you just got to be able to continue to showcase those and show that you can be somebody that can play in the box, outside of the box. And yes, the safety position has been devalued a little bit, but if a guy is really, really good, if he tests out the roof, there's going to be a spot for him. And he was somebody that will test very, very well. And he's also somebody that I think will show everybody that, kind of where he's at in the grand scheme of things. So we'll find out. But he's the one that you look at and you're kind of like, okay, can he be that one that continues that U of A first round procession of players? And I don't know that he can't be. He's, like I said, he's going to have to ball out, though. And by balling out, he's going to have to be somebody that gets you what? Like I said, he's probably going to have to get you 4 or 5 interceptions, 4 or 5 tackles for loss, sacks, all of that stuff. He's going to have to be able to do exactly that. But I also don't believe that there's any reason that he can't do any of that. As a matter of fact, I think that he will do all of that. And Danny Gonzalez has said, and Danny Gonzalez, I think, was very poignant with it, where he said, it's our job to put him in a position to be able to make plays. And that's so true. It's his job. They've got to be able to put him in a spot to make plays. And if he can make plays, then Arizona did its duty, and he did its duty, because that's why he's coming back to be featured. And Arizona, there's not a tremendous amount of talent on the defense, so it's not like you can't find ways to get Genesis Smith moving in or out. Now, there's a guy that it might be one of the most physically gifted players on the team that looks different, but he's at an interesting position that is not quite viewed the way that it used to be. But first, Monarch Money, my friends, Monarch Money. Check out Monarch Money. Most people can't name all their financial accounts or even get what they're worth. That's, yes. You look at Monarch Money and they say, we are here to help you out. And whether it's a 401k, properties, or investments, and when you don't have the full picture, you can end up leaving money on the table. Nobody wants to do that. Nobody wants to leave any money on the table. Monarch Money comes in and says, let us consolidate all of this for you. We got you covered. Monarch does the heavy lifting for you. You can link all your accounts in minutes. And again, you can find out what you're spending stuff on. There's a lot of times you're spending stuff on, you're like, man, I had no clue that I was spending anything on that. Monarch Money has you covered. Don't let financial opportunities slip through the cracks. Use code LOCKEDONCollege at monarchmoney.com in your browser for a half off the first year. That's 50% off your first year at monarchmoney.com with code LOCKEDONCollege. Check it out, Monarch Money. Now, let's see the other one here. We got a bunch of different runs here. Let's see. It doesn't look like that one's in there. All right. Well, you got one more then we're going to talk about. You got OpenPhone, baby. All right. Here's the deal with OpenPhone. If you're running a business, every opportunity or every call missed is a missed opportunity. Think about that. The last time you needed a service, the first person that didn't answer, you probably went to the next one. And again, you didn't wait, because your time is valuable too. And here's what you do. With this, OpenPhone is the #1 business phone system designed to streamline and scale your customer communications. Do you juggle 2 phones just to keep business and personal calls separate? OpenPhone solves that immediately. Your whole team can share one number and respond to customers like a shared inbox. No more who's handling this, and the AI agent handles those after-hour calls, answer questions. Again, so why over 60,000 businesses trust OpenPhone? They're offering Locked On listeners 20% off your first 6 months at openphone.com/LockedOnCollege. That's openphone.com/LockedOnCollege. They'll even port over your existing numbers for free. OpenPhone, no missed calls, no missed customers. Check it out. Thanks for keeping it locked on Wildcats and making this your first listen of the day. I am your host, Mike Luke. All right, now let's talk a little bit about Kedrick Reescano. Now, for people out there that don't know about Kedrick Reescano, this is a guy that people like Arizona generally don't get. He is like I said, he was one of the top 10 running backs in the entire country just a couple years ago. And not only that, he's a guy that you watch him and you're like, okay, well, he looks different. Arizona got him obviously got him from the SEC, and he's the one. He has looked the part in camp, and I think that's something that has been very, very, like I said, it's been very, very helpful for Arizona. How about that? You need him to be the bell cow, in my opinion. I like some of the other running backs here, but I need him to be the bell cow. I need him to be the guy that you watch him and you're like, okay, cool. He's going to be a little bit different. And that's him. Like I said, I like Quincy Craig. He's shown a lot in camp. Ishmael Mahdi, he's obviously got a nice track record as well. But this is the dude. This is the guy that I think has to, basically carry the team from the running back spot. And again, they're all going to get carries. I get all that. But he's the one that I think needs to be the featured back. And if he's the featured back, then Arizona's going to be in pretty good shape. But watching him, though, he's a pile driver. He's 6 foot. He's 6 foot. What do you call it? I don't know. Probably 6'1", 225 pounds. He's big. He's big. He's really, really good. You watch him though, and you also can tell as well that he's ready for that next one. Not only is he ready for that next one, he's an interesting guy. he is how do I put this? He's somebody, though, that I think can go for 1,000 yards. If he goes for 1,000 yards, he's going to get a lot of NFL looks because, again, he's big, he's fast, and he just kind of, like I said, he just looks different. There's guys on this team. There's certain guys from the South that just look a little bit different. Reescano is one of those guys. Not only that, you see it and you're like, okay, cool. There's just something a little bit different. There's something a little bit different now. So I think he's a guy that has that potential perhaps to be that. We'll see. But that's the one that you look at and you're like, okay, cool. And again, the running back position has been devalued, but he's somebody that's got some potential. Now, the wide receiver spot, I don't see any of these guys being first rounders, but at the same time, he's also somebody, this is also somebody too, where he goes and you're like, okay, cool. I see it. This is going to be an interesting spot though for the U of A. Those are the two guys that really, really kind of stand out in my opinion. The two guys that you're like, okay, if these guys can continue the NFL streak, if they can continue all of this, it's going to be because of those two guys. Those are the two that I look at and I say, okay, Now, unless there could be a dark horse, who knows? Maybe somebody emerges in the defense where you're like, wow, I didn't see that. That came out of kind of nowhere. Maybe that's the case. I don't really see that one, but at the same time, I also think that we're you're looking at a team though that probably doesn't have that lock first round pick like previous years, but who knows? Maybe Wendell Moy is a first round pick, and then we claim Wendell Moy, because if you claim Wendell Moy, I don't know that that's the worst thing in the world as well. So, but Arizona, like I said, you got a chance. Getting a first round pick in 3 straight years, I don't believe has ever been done here. It's been done, let's see, I'm trying to think off the top of my head, 98, then 99, because you had Chris McAllister, then you had Trung, but then after that, obviously there was a free fall. So I don't think that it's ever been done here before. So that would be a big thing for the U of A to be able to get that. So we shall see. Now, as far as recruiting, though, it means the world for recruiting, because, again, kids want to be able to say that, I can go to some place that can put me into the NFL. And if you can go to some place that can put you in the NFL, that's what kids are basically looking for. And that's something that I think you watch this team, you watch this squad, and you're kind of like, okay, cool. Who can get me into the NFL? And if this is another year where you see this coaching staff and you're like, okay, they can get me into the NFL, you're going to have a little bit of an interest in that one. I don't really know who else on this roster could fit that bill. As a matter of fact, I don't really see anybody else that could fit that bill. Those are the two guys, though, to definitely keep an eye on. Now, we're going to talk a little bit about some of the recruits coming in next year, because some of them are, got a little bit of talent as well, and then maybe a little bit Arizona basketball talk. But first, PrizePicks, my friends. PrizePicks. Check out PrizePicks. Okay, here's the deal with PrizePicks. And again, get in there. Again, this is the time you want to be in on here. Here's the deal with PrizePicks. You look at it all. You look at everything going on with football right now, and you're like, man, I want to get in on something here where I can actually kind of figure something out. And again, this episode is brought to you today by PrizePicks, the daily fantasy platform that lets you turn your football predictions into real rewards. Preseason is already heating up, and college football is literally here. So again, check it out. Now, here's the great thing with PrizePicks. Whether you got your name on a big name quarterback or a breakout running back, PrizePicks makes it easy to get in the game. You can look at it and say, you know what, I think Joe Burrow is going to do this, or I think that Pat Mahomes is going to do that. PrizePicks has you covered. It's simple to play. Just pick more or less on 2 to 6 players' stats projections, and you run with it from there. The flex is awesome. The flex play option is a total game changer. Even when one of your picks misses, I still can double my money. Check it out. PrizePicks puts their members first, so all withdrawals are fast, safe, and secure. Download PrizePicks and use code LOCKEDONCollege to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. That's code LOCKEDONCollege to get $50 in lineups after your first $5 play. PrizePicks. Run your game. Check it out now. FanDuel. Oh, this is exciting here. We got FanDuel. All right, August 26th is officially FanDuel Futures Day, a brand new holiday for football fans who live for bold predictions and preseason hunches. For just 24 hours, FanDuel is giving you deals on NFL season predictions. So whether you're calling the MVP or eyeing a long-term division winner, this is your time to strike. You could take a flyer on an MVP or another award and say, you know what, I'm going to make myself a little bit of money off that one. Visit the FanDuel app today and start planning your future bets now, because Futures Day is one day and one day only. FanDuel, play your game. This is going to be something that all of you are going to want to get in on. Thanks for keeping it locked on Wildcats and making this your first listen of the day. I am your host, Mike Luke. All right, now let's talk a little bit about future recruiting. Arizona's got some decent players coming in, and we'll find out, maybe they're enticed by that. Oscar Rios, 4-star kid, obviously quarterback, almost a top 100 player out of Downey, California, wants to play for Seth Doege. I think you're going to find out a lot of players want to play for Seth Doege because, well, Seth Doege is a coach that just kind of has a little bit of an aura about him, kind of has a little bit of a, like I said, a little bit of an ability to just kind of look a little bit different there. And so there's, like I said, there's obviously an interesting part to all of this. But with Seth Doege, though, Oscar Rios, that's going to be something that's going to be interesting to watch because, again, this team, like I said, there's a lot to like about this team and the players going forward. But the first thing is you watch it and you're just like, all right, well, what's that next step then? Oscar Rios maybe is a guy. The other one, too, running back, you got a 4-star running back out of Northern California. Like we always talk about, Alonzo Carter is going to be able to do Alonzo Carter things in that backfield. He's the one coach on the vibe or the coaching staff that has big time vibes to him. You watch him and you're like, okay, cool. You kind of get why kids would want to play for him. Now, the next thing is Arizona then. Who are the, what are you looking for in this recruiting class? And I'm going to keep coming back to this, and we're going to talk a little bit more about we're going to talk about the running back room tomorrow. But when it comes to this recruiting class, anything for Arizona around 40, I'm fine with, because then at that point, you got to be able to coach them up. Arizona's never been a school outside of a couple years where you brought in top 25 classes. Stoops did it once or twice. Rich Rod did it once. Tomey did it. I mean, they didn't have rankings back then, but Tomey had a couple classes too where you had some pretty good players. But that be that as it may, it's going to be a little bit different here. But Arizona's got to be able to find out, they got to be able to get NFL players, because if you get NFL players, your margin for error is so much different. Look at your margin for error last year with, or 2 years ago on the Alamo Bowl team. You had a lot of different players that were, like I said, that were good to go, they just had more of a margin. You look at Jacob Cowing, you look at T-Mac, you look at, Tanner McLaughlin, at Jonah Coleman, et cetera, et cetera. You had a lot of guys that were just a little bit different here. And I think that's, like I said, that's, it's just kind of is what it is. So what is that next step then? The next step then is getting on the field and showing a competent product. That's the big thing here, the competent product. And then you can kind of move on from there. Arizona, I have to know what I'm watching this year. When I watched last year, I had no clue what I was watching. Nobody had any clue what they were watching, and it was boring to watch. It was like I said, I gotta be interested. Now, part of the reason you could say, well, Ja'Cory Krosky-Merritt didn't play last year, he would have made a difference. He definitely would have made a difference. I mean, you can tell by seeing what he's doing in the NFL that he can definitely make a difference. And so, like I said, that's a fascinating part to all of this. Now, tomorrow we're going to talk about the running back room, because the one coach on this roster that I have absolutely no concerns about, and literally no concerns about, is where we're at now with the running back room. Running back room is going to be fine. Running back room is going to always be fine. I mean, you look at it last year, and sure, again, you had somebody. You had an NFL back in Ja'Cory Krosky-Merritt that was essentially booted not booted, but wasn't allowed to play. But you were still okay with Quali Conley and Reescano. I don't think that'll ever happen again. The main reason why is because they didn't know that he wasn't eligible. I mean, you found out later on that he wasn't eligible, but Arizona didn't know that. So the running back room, like I said, is going to be good. And I expect Alonzo Carter to always have a stable of backs have a stable of backs when it comes to this. And that's where, like I said, it's fun to just watch and see how this all does play out. But we're going to talk a lot about the running back situation tomorrow, a lot about the running back room, because there's a lot to like. There's a lot to be impressed by. So there we will obviously go with that. And again, we're going to get into some Arizona basketball, maybe have some DJ news. Red Blue is going to be really, really good. There's a lot to like. But on that note, though, very, very much appreciate you all making Locked On Wildcats your first listen of the day. Locked On, your team every day. Bear down, back the A, and thanks for making this your first listen of the day. We'll be back with you tomorrow, talking a little bit of Arizona's nice little running back room with Alonzo Carter.